Damien ruins horror movies.
Hey, what's up, friends? We are back with another episode. And I just want to take a second and say, if you haven't subscribed yet, to do it, because these videos are not on schedule anymore. I'm just kind of dropping them whenever I finish them, which lately has been about twice a week. So if you want to be up to date on what's going on, subscribe. You can also follow me on Twitter, or you can come like my Facebook page, Damien Ruins Horror Movies. Links are at the bottom in the notes. And tonight's film is a lost, forgotten classic that I had not even heard of until last week when I watched it. It is called Blood Beat. It was filmed in 1983, and it came out in 1988, apparently. Evidently, they were not ready for this in 1983. I am still not ready for this movie. This movie is fucking weird. It's directed by Fabrice Ange Zafaratos. Sounds like I'm chanting it. Sounds like I'm in Army of Darkness when he's got to say Nikto Klatu Barada. I don't remember the order he has to say it. Fun fact about him saying that, though, is those are characters from The Day the Earth Stood Still. So the characters from that? I think so. I don't know. It's in that movie, but it's also in Return of the Jedi. 3 of the Skiff Guards, that's their names. There's Klaatu. I had the action figures, okay? There's Klaatu, Nikto, and Barada. And those are characters in Return of the Jedi on the skiff. The more you know. This movie begins on Christmas Eve. This movie doesn't feel that Christmassy, but there is a Christmas tree. It takes place, out in the middle of nowhere. It opens with this guy, Gary, is hunting a deer. He's a bow hunter, and he hunts a deer and he brings it back to the house. His girlfriend, Kathy, comes out and he's like, check it out, I got a deer. And she's like, oh boy. And she looks in and she's like, oh God. He's like, what do you got, a migraine? But it's weird because, what? He told her it was in the back of the truck, and I'm assuming she's seen a deer. It's not like it's the first time he's gone hunting before, and she just, totally repulsed. It wasn't mutilated. It's just this deer laying in the back, and she's just like, oh. I was like, what the fuck did you think was back there? Her kids are coming to visit, and Gary wants to surprise them by saying, hey, me and your mom are getting married. But she's like, nope, I'm not marrying you. I'm never getting married again. And he's just like, fine. So he goes out and starts skinning his deer, and the kids show up. They get out. Her son and daughter. Her son's name is Ted, and daughter is Dolly. And Ted brought a girl he introduces as his friend, Sarah. And Sarah meets mom, Kathy, and there's this really weird, I don't know, mom's like, what's up with this chick? Even though mom, Kathy, seems like the real weirdo. It's also weird because it seems like, because even though these are Kathy's kids, Kathy's so fucking weird, and her kids get along so well with Gary that it feels like they're Gary's kids, and Kathy's dating a guy with kids and not the other way around, because Kathy's just acts so strange and weird, and Gary's like, oh hey, what's up? Ted takes Sarah up to the guest room, and she just kind of gets a weird vibe from the room, but that's where she's going to unpack. And, her and Ted lay in the bed and start making out, and then she's like, no. It gets kind of rapey, because she's like, no, stop it, and starts pushing him away, and he's like, what? And it's kind of weird, because, he didn't say, this is my girlfriend. He's like, this is my friend. It seems weird, this is my friend almost kind of implies that they've never had sex before, and he's kind of like, oh, what? Don't you want to get down or no? It's not like it's nighttime and everybody's asleep, so let's sneak off and do this really quick. This is the middle of the day. They've been there all of 10 minutes, and he's like, hey, what are you not feeling here? Come on, we got the mood just perfect. And then on top of that, his mom's a painter, and all her creepy paintings are in there. They're not that creepy, but they're creeping Sarah out. She's like, I feel like your mom is in my head and she's watching me, which is right off the bat weird. What? Because the description of this movie says, actually says a woman who lives in deer country gets possessed by an ancient samurai spirit. which is a stupid premise. But I'm trying to figure out, like, so Kathy's possessed, not Sarah, because it's really hard throughout this whole movie. It's like I can't tell who's possessed. I think they both are. They're both fucking weird. So Uncle Pete shows up, and they decide they're going to go hunting again because they don't have enough deer apparently. And they leave Kathy behind. Kathy's kind of a buzzkill. She just stays home, sits in her room and paints. It's like, why do you even have these people over here, Kathy? Because it seems like it's your house. You're having these people over. You don't want them there. You're being the weirdo that hangs out in the room and doesn't talk to anybody. And then when you do come out, you're fucking weird. Freak people out. So they're out hunting. Dolly and Gary both have bows, and they got them pointed because there's like, first all you can see is one deer. So it looks funny. It's like, okay, they both have bows. They're just like ready to shoot the deer, which is, the deer's running. And then the other two, Uncle Pete and Ted, have their rifles and they're pointing. It's like, what are you guys going to do? Are you going to all just shoot the shit out of this one deer? Then you see another deer, but still it's two deer. Like, you're not going to have any meat to eat if all four of you guys shoot the same deer. Or if you're supposed to just shoot it. I've never hunted, but I know you wouldn't want to like use an Uzi to shoot a deer. You want to have one wound, first shot, kill it. And these deer, they're not stopped. I don't know. I think they're waiting for it. But it doesn't matter because Sarah is a vegetarian and she does not like the idea of them hunting. So as they're all locking in their targets, she screams and it freaks them out. So they shoot. They miss all the deer, but they're like, what the fuck? And then she gets up and takes off. And they're like, well, where's she going? They're like, what'd you bring that vegetarian with us for? And they go looking for her. And she runs until finally she runs into a guy who's like staggering and kind of falls on her. And he's got this wound, this bullet hole in his stomach. Probably from the hunters back there. Her boyfriend's family. Which is kind of her fault. It's kind of this guy's fault for being... It's like, where is this guy? And none of these people are wearing any kind of like bright... Because you're not supposed to like just be camouflaged so that nobody can see you. You're supposed to wear like some reflective stuff so like you can see if there's a person in the distance so you don't shoot him in the stomach. So then eventually the cops and the ambulance come and, oh, well, he's dead because he died like, on the site. And nobody's bothered by that too much. And they tell the cops like, well, it wasn't us. Yeah, we shot a couple shots, but we shot the opposite direction. It's like, all right. And it's like, and the cop's like, okay, all right, I believe you. It's like, you could examine the bullet and it would, you'd figure out whose bullet is in this guy. When they get home a little bit later, Ted takes Sarah up to the bedroom and puts her to bed. She's the only one really affected by this guy dying. But before he leaves, she's like, hey, could you take the pictures out of here and take them with you? I don't want to sleep with them in here. They creep me out. I feel like your mom's watching me through her paintings. So he's like, okay, no problem. And it's funny because these paintings, they're like, the canvases are like 4x6. He's like, oh, no problem. Grabs it and just like carries it. And it's like, and what's Kathy going to think if she comes out? It's like, hey, what are my paintings doing in the hallway? This is my house, bitch. If you don't like my paintings, you go sleep in the car. And then Ted goes off into Mom's painting room. And Mom, for Mom, I don't know how far away these guys live. They seem like they don't see each other that often. The least Mom can do is maybe take a night off for painting. But she's painting and kind of like half-less, and Ted's like, hey, I want to get my car fixed and blah. She's like, well, she's like ignoring him basically, and she's like, I don't want to see Gary anymore. He's like, huh? Why not? He's like, I just don't. And I don't like that Sarah chick he brought. It's like, what's wrong with Sarah? I don't know. I get this weird vibe from her. I feel like I met her before. I don't like her. Ted leaves the room, and Kathy continues to paint, which somehow wakes Sarah up. Loud painting! As Sarah tosses and turns. She wakes up and finds a chest next to the bed, and inside's a bunch of samurai gear. Hot shit. Christmas a little early. Not really, though. She pulls out the sword and cuts her finger. And Ted and Kathy go in and check on her, and they find her laying on the floor. And she starts talking about this chest with samurai gear, and they're cut on her finger, and they're like, well, you must have been dreaming. She's like, no, there's a chest. Like, there's no chest in here. But I cut my finger, and she looks, and her finger's not bleeding anymore. So she's like, Then Gary, I don't know where the hell Gary was, but he comes back, and he confronts Kathy, and he's just like, you know what? I'm I'm tired of this. I'm tired of your painting. I'm tired of your brushes. I'm tired of your visions. Oh, then he says a funny thing. He's like, I'm not just a piece of plastic that you can just use and then throw away when you're done with it. It's like, whoa, good analogy. Way to break it down. This guy is like he's not holding back. Then he storms out of there and goes downstairs where Dolly and Ted are playing Monopoly. They're not actually playing it. They're like setting it up. They've been doing it for. They have a Monopoly board on the floor, and it turns out they have a fat ass cat too. And of course, what's that little prick do? He fucking lays in the middle of the board and decides, I'm going to take a nap. Or you guys can pet me. Or both. Meanwhile, they're sorting out the pieces where it's like, why didn't you guys put it away right last year? Now you got to sit there. You've been sitting there for an hour. This is the second scene I've seen you guys. You're still fucking with it. You haven't even played the game yet. And it pans over and old Sarah's sitting on the couch. So apparently she didn't go back to sleep. So Sarah's on the couch. Ted and Dolly are on the floor trying to start a game of Monopoly. And Gary's walked in. He's got his little Dre Beats headphones on, plugged into the TV, and he's watching it. First I thought he had a Walkman, but that's the remote. I forgot how fucking huge TV remotes were, or like cable remotes were in 1983. They're like a brick. Like you could take somebody out with one of those things. Uncle Pete's driving, and Uncle Pete drives like a fucking maniac. Earlier when he was on his way there, he wasn't even late because they were like, oh, well, we'll have to wait till your Uncle Pete gets here. He shouldn't be here for another couple hours. And it pans over to him, like just hauling, like he catches air on the way there and shows up like within 10 minutes. But now he's driving again and he gets his car stuck in a ditch because he's a shitty driver. It's like, hey man, slow it down. You kind of get what you deserve. Then he gets out and it looks like he's almost going to try and pull his truck out of the ditch. It's like, what is he doing? And then you can hear his heavy breathing behind him. Like, what the hell? Is that Darth Vader gonna kill him? And he gets killed and you don't get to see what it is. But meanwhile, Sarah's back in bed and she's like having these weird dreams, but now she's like got her legs in the air and it's like she's air fucking and like releasing samurai demons out of her. But I'm not sure what's going on, but there's something to do with her sleep fucking sleep air. I don't know what that is, but she's doing that and like all it's releasing, even though she's the one that's not possessed. Kathy's possessed. Kathy's acting a little more normal. Kathy's not acting possessed. She's just being a reclusive bitch. And then nearby there's this guy. He's laying on his waterbed and like his wife comes in and he tells her to go get him some tea. And it's kind of funny because she's like, okay, do you want anything else? He's like, no. Let the dog in. So she goes and lets the dog in. And the dog looks like the dog from The Thing. It's kind of funny. And humanoids from the deep. It's like, what is up with that dog? Is that the same dog in all three? Is that just a really popular dog in the early 80s? Is it the same dog in all three movies? So she comes back with the tea, and he's like, what the hell? What happened to my orange juice? I was like, you've never asked for fucking orange juice. And it's funny because she goes in the other room and she makes him orange juice. Like Tang. Just look gross. But then she gets stabbed with a samurai sword. Because the samurai spirit goes... This is the weird thing. There's a samurai walking around killing people. Yet its spirit is possessing Kathy and possibly Sarah. And it's walking around because it shows Sarah is clearly in the house in bed. Kathy is clearly painting. And there's a third thing walking around killing people. No, he gets up and he finds his wife's body and he's like, oh my god. And then he sees the samurai, so he's like, oh shit. And he takes off running and he does like this final girl dramatic, like jumps out the window. But he's on the first floor, so he just kind of falls outside. And it's like, why'd you go out the window? Like when Sally did it in Chainsaw Massacre, it's because she was on the second floor and she didn't have a choice. You could have faked a left, faked a right, and twisted around and gone out the front door, you moron. Then he tries to get in his van. I don't remember if his van started or not. But he ends up fleeing. Oh, and he trips over nothing. It's like, what the hell? Come on. You're not a final girl. You're not even a final guy because you're about to die. He goes over to Gary's house But it's too late. Samurai gets him and he just kind of crashes into their fucking door and breaks it with their face. And they're like, what the hell was that? And they go and look. They're like, oh my God, it's Paul. Who's Paul? Paul, I swear, has no part in this movie other than dying here. Then the house like starts coming to life and it's really weird. And Gary gets taken out by like a bunch of food comes flying out of the pantry and off the shelves. And it's good to see that the oatmeal cylinder has not changed in 40 years or more. But he gets hit with those, and those are fine. But then, like, cans of soda start flying at him, and eventually he's down. He's out. Ted and Dolly run upstairs into where Sarah is. And then, like, Dolly goes away, and Ted starts having sex with Sarah, because now Sarah's all into it. She's like, you know what? Now that I've fucked that samurai spirit, I am down with this. And the full moon watches. It's kind of romantic, except that it's not. It's actually creepy. And when Gary comes to, he runs out to his truck, but it won't start. So he gets on a horse. I don't know where he thinks he's going. Then Dolly barges into Kathy's paint room, and she's trying to confront her, and then she's like, don't you get in my mind. Get out of my mind, Mom. And it's like, wait, what's going on here? What do you guys know? You know that your mom's possessed? Has she always been possessed? Is she psychic? Then they start having like this psychic standoff, and they're like, some like Jedi mind trick shit. And then they stop, and Kathy apologizes. And the weird part is this is all the same night. So Dolly goes, like, I don't know how many times Sarah went to bed that day. Dolly goes looking for Ted. Ted's not up in the room anymore. She finds him. Gary comes back. He's got an axe. And then the samurai shows up and like reveals itself. So Gary swings the axe and hits it, and it just falls. Very Dead Jedi style. The costume just like collapses on the floor, and there's just a pile of samurai gear. And it's like, he's like, all right, I did it. And he picks up the helmet and he takes it over to the paint room where old Kathy is. He's like, I killed it. And she's like, burn that. He's like, I will. But first, I have to take it to the... He's got some reason to not do it. And everybody's kind of like, all right, cool. Now we can enjoy Christmas. And eventually Sarah puts on the... I'm going to wrap this up because this is too weird. This doesn't even make sense as I'm explaining it. But Sarah puts on the samurai. She's got her face all painted. Oh, that's what it was. Kathy walks in on Sarah, and Sarah's like got her face painted with rouge and stuff, kind of like she's supposed to be painted like a samurai, even though Sarah's not the one who's supposed to be possessed, according to the description of this movie. But now she is. Then she puts on the costume, and her and Kathy have like this psychic mind off where there's like they can't do it. And somehow Gary dies, and then she goes after I don't know what the fuck happened to Kathy at this point, but then she goes after Dolly and Ted, and they get like this electric glow around them, and she's like trying to kill them, and like they join hands and they somehow overpower her, because even though Ted seems to have no psychic powers whatsoever, Dolly seems to have some. And then I don't know, they kill Sarah and it's over. It's weird. It almost feels like, I don't know where this director is from. This feels like an American movie, but it feels really hard like it's trying to be an Italian horror movie. You know, the Giallo or whatever they call that. You know, like this guy thinks he's Fulci or Argento or Brava. I mean, it feels like that, but it just doesn't work because it's just not. I don't know. It's like because the Italian horror movies, like they leave you with kind of like. Afterwards, you might be like, what the fuck did I just watch? But while you're watching it, you're just like, you're captivated. Where this feels more like some guy like inherited a samurai suit or went to a garage sale and found one. He's like, oh, cool, I'm going to get that. I should make a movie. What if this thing was haunted? And he didn't have good enough friends to be like, dude, that's a stupid fucking idea. Don't do it. But what if it took place on Christmas? No. Stupid. Don't buy that goddamn suit. Too late. And he made the movie anyway. The Badass Award goes to Dolly and Ted. A twofer for the first time. They band together and they stop the evil. And they grew up with a weird mom. which I don't know what that has to do with anything. Although they got a little touchy feeling for siblings. It got a little weird at the end. It's kind of like, is Dolly not like Sarah because she's jealous of her? Not that it really thoroughly seemed like she didn't like Sarah, but it was just, there was a very weird dynamic going on there. What did we learn?
Survival tales.
Don't take a vegetarian on a hunting trip. If something's chasing you, don't lead it to your friend's house, asshole. And don't bring your weird girlfriend home to your weird mom's house. Jesus, if that was my mom and she acted like that, I would never bring anybody to my house. See you next time.